All right, we'll go ahead and get started.
First off, I don't know much about the South Carolina situation. I know I'll be asked about it. I just what I've seen on Twitter and all that stuff. So we're hopeful that that those guys are all good down there, and that we're going to be able to play tomorrow. We'll see. Frank's done a really good job with their team. Big win against Florida State. We know how difficult it is to beat those guys. They're playing very well lately. Just typical Frank Martin teams, very aggressive defensively, aggressive offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding team, very good in transition. And they have good depth. They play a lot of players. So it'll be interesting to see, what transpires, but, certainly hope, the health of their players is number one. And we'll see what happens with the game, but would love to get a chance to play. We'll just have to wait and see.
When's the last time you talked to Frank about it?
I haven't talked to Frank. I know there's been conversations between the ADs and our ops guys, I think, talked this morning. And, I know they're still planning on trying to come if it works out, but I think they're testing today and, obviously need some negative tests. So that's really all I know.
Is this another, obviously it is a concern for you guys going forward as you get more and more into the season with the game being indoors and all, right?
Yeah, it is. It's funny. We talked about it a little bit as a staff, probably 4 or 5 days ago, just kind of reminding our players that it seems that cases are up everywhere. And, this is a scary time for your team because, once it gets into your team, you just don't know, what it's going to mean. And taking pauses is difficult. We know that from last year. And, we all like to know, we all like certainty. We like routine. We like schedule. We like organization. And obviously this changes all of that. So, you do the best you can to stay safe and hope for the best, but, things happen. And, it seems, I guess it's a little disappointing. Obviously, you watch all the fall sports, get to kind of conclude their seasons and get through things seem to be pretty well. Hopeful that the same would be for us. We've been okay to date, but now all you do is look around college basketball and you see a lot of cancellations. And so, we're certainly not anywhere out of the woods that this thing might just be getting started here with everybody going indoors. And what does that mean moving forward? I think, we'll just have to wait and see.
I'd be disappointed too, be the second year in a row. The Gamecocks, you guys have had this happen.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Last year, I think they developed COVID and right before our game, and we couldn't go down there. And the games are hard to make up because conference games are so important that then squeezing one in is challenging. Obviously, certainly enjoy playing them. The rivalry is important, but coaches have to do what's best for their programs and obviously take care of their kids. And so, we'll see, but it is unfortunate that, second year in a row where we've kind of gotten into this situation. We'll see.
From a preparation standpoint, not knowing who's going to be on the court for them. What kind of,
that changes it a little bit. Just, certainly, again, we like to be prepared. We like to know what's going on. It makes it a little more challenging not knowing exactly who you're preparing for because, that may dictate how they play, changes they may make. But you just do the best you can and try to get your team ready. We had a little walkthrough and did some shooting this morning. We'll have practice this afternoon and, hope that, we find out some good news from South Carolina that things are better down there and, they're okay to play.
Has there been any considerations as far as a little more safety precautions for you guys or anything like any talks of that?
Nothing drastic. We wear masks when we're in any kind of room setting together. I think that's something we're going to have to talk about. With our trainers and doctors are we at a point where, do we need to not meet in small rooms like we did last year? Last year we met upstairs and we stayed 6 feet apart as much as we could. This year we've worn masks and kind of gone back to normal as much as you can. But, we still try to be cautious. Obviously, we've got a large majority, almost our whole team is vaccinated. So that helps a little bit, although, the boosters obviously becoming more and more important. And, I don't think we're in very good numbers with that yet. So we'll have to start, talking about that, I think, a good bit.
That's what I was gonna ask next.
Some guys aren't eligible yet. I don't think their time has passed.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. When guys start getting eligible, do you encourage it? Because
Yeah, you
it's their
certainly
own choice.
encourage it, but,
Yeah.
It's their choice and, they got to do what they think's best for them. But certainly we do encourage it. And the athletic department's always done a good job of trying to help with that as much as they can.
With this game returning, I mean, are the guys excited, looking forward to it, given that last year they weren't able to,
Yeah, I mean, I think
participate?
guys always excited about this game. It's a competitive game, two very, physical teams that go at each other every year. It's been, I guess I've played 10 of these now. I think last year would have been my 11th. And I don't even know exactly what, how many we've won, how many we've lost, but I know it's really close. Might be 5-5, might be 6-4 one way, but it's very close. They've been very competitive games. I could tell my guys were a little disheartened today when I told them, hey guys, there's a chance the game won't happen. We'll have to wait and see. And, kids want to play.
Just personal wise, how have you seen PJ really kind of come along during the past few games?
I think PJ's played well most of the time. I think, he didn't play quite as well as I would have liked in some of the Miami game, the recent game. But he's developing nicely. Again, we've talked about he can score in a lot of different ways. He's got good hands. He's a great teammate. I think that's, in this day and age, I think that's, when you have your really good players are great teammates, I think that is very valuable. He's had a little bit of a foot injury that's been bothering him some. And so we've had to try to monitor that. He's missing some practices to try to rest him. There's a little concern from my standpoint with that, because sometimes kids if they're not practicing every day, they lose a little rhythm and timing, especially younger players. We just got to manage it. We got to do the best we can with him, but he's off to a fantastic start. He's having a very good sophomore season, which we thought he would.
What is it about South Carolina? They're doing so well and different this year.
I don't know that it's a lot different. First of all, last year, I think with their team, they had so many COVID issues. You kind of just got to toss last year away. Our team was lucky. We had a couple, but it didn't overtake our program at all. And we were able to manage it. And, we had an older team, and we've talked about how my older team with mostly guys who were veterans of the program, I thought that gave us an advantage last year. And then I thought we were good. And so we played like it. Their team this year, they've added some nice pieces, some transfers. They've got a few guys that have been in the program like Cousinard and Levesque and Bryant that are good players. So you get a kind of a nice blend. I think they're playing very similarly to how he's always played with his good teams, which is inside out, attack you in the paint, whether it's posting, whether it's rebounding, whether it's driving. Obviously defensively, just very tough to play against, hard to score around the basket. They just, they're a typical Frank Martin team. And, they've got an experienced group, those older guys that have been there for 3 or 4 years. I think, at a lot of programs like Frank's and mine in South Carolina and Clemson, you need some experienced players, that have been together a couple years to be consistent. It's hard to be consistently good. It's really hard, especially in this day and age with transfers and all the different things going on. Continuity is rare, and then blending your team and role definition, role acceptance, all those things. There's just a lot that goes into it that's more than even the X's and O's. And then combine that with, and your team is trying to figure out how to play the best. And I just feel like he's found a way to make his team play not only very hard like they usually do, but I think the way they're playing fits their personnel. And there seems to be very good buy-in, very good acceptance. And they've had an injury or two, and guys, it doesn't really affect them. I think they have a lot of players, and he's played a lot of guys. I mean, they remind me more of our team last year when I was throwing out 11 guys, and, you know, Hunter Tyson got hurt for a while, and he was a good player and had some really good games, but we had enough guys to overcome it. And I kind of look at their team and I see a lot of the same things. They just have so much depth. There's not much drop off. And I think that's sometimes on our level, when you're 8-9 guy, 7-8-9 guy, or very similar to your 3-4 guy, you're pretty good. And you wear some teams down. And I think they're wearing some teams down.
I know on the football side of the rivalry, they've had, on the South Carolina side, they've had coaching changes several times in the last 10 years. But you and Frank been there both, been in both programs a long time. How's that helped the rivalry, do you think? And also the competitiveness of the games as like it's been?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I think, you know, Frank and I have a good relationship, healthy respect for one another and what we try to do. And, you know, we recruit against each other some, but, you know, we both know that it's really hard to win, right? And win consistently. And so I think there's respect for the way we go about doing it. I think there's respect with how our teams play. I think, you know, we both, you know, really try to get our kids to play really hard and, you know, do the right things and, you know, be involved with the community, do all the things that you want to do as a leader of young people. And I just think that, you know, we've been at it a while, that, you know, the longer you're with each other in the state, you probably get a little closer because you've spent more time together. And, you know, because we respect each other, I think that's made it a very healthy rivalry. Now, we both want to win the game really bad, but there hasn't been any animosity. We haven't had a bunch of negative recruit. I mean, like, we just go about doing our thing, doing our jobs. And so I think it's made it a very good, competitive, but healthy rivalry.
This game kind of serves as a springboard into the ACC grind. And you guys are riding the 2-game win streak. I mean, it's just one game, but can you speak to the importance of stacking wins and bringing that momentum? Absolutely.
I mean, the last 2 games we've played pretty well and for large portions of the game and beat 2 very good mid-major teams. You know, 2 teams that we thought would be good. You know, we're playing a bigger, stronger, more physical team in South Carolina, and we're going to see that again with Virginia shortly thereafter and a lot of the ACC. So just, you know, you're constantly trying to build positive momentum, right? Momentum is very powerful in our sport, especially because the games happen so quickly. You know, there's most of the time, there's not a lot of time to like always digest it and make a bunch of changes. And so when your team is feeling good, and you're in a good place mentally and physically, you know, your team has a much better chance to play well. So there's a big, you know, phrase in coaching that you probably heard, that sometimes it's not who you play, but when you play them. It's almost more important that your team's in a better frame of mind, and maybe you have time for preparation and then the opponent that you're playing. You can play a better opponent and still be okay as long as your team's in a good place. And if your team's not in a good place, it's hard. And I think that's one of the real challenges is, you know, unless your talent is so much better, you know, it's hard to have your team in a good place for 4 straight months. Basketball is a long season. Your kids are dealing with a lot. The school part of it, girlfriends, voices in their heads outside of our locker rooms, life in general, COVID. I mean, there's just a lot of things that can create bumpy road for you and get your team off kilter. And you might be off kilter for 8 or 9 days and play 3 games, and it can be really problematic. And so the spirit of your team, the morale of your team as a head coach, you're constantly coaching spirit, morale, you know, trying to have a pulse on your guys, get them in good places. You know, sometimes these guys are doing great. There's 1 or 2 guys over here that they're in a little bit of a bad place. And so now you got to try to bring them back in the fold. And then somebody else all of a sudden gets a little sideways because they're not playing as well, or maybe they don't get quite as many minutes as they would like. And so there's a constant adjustment that, you know, as coaches is really challenging, but is extremely important.
Anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom? For the good of the order?
Brad, can you hear me? This is Matt.
Yes.
Hey, sorry. I know you said you talked with your team and told them that there was a chance the game might not happen. I was just wondering if you talked with Frank or Graham talked with Ray Tanner or kind of just anything updates latest on exactly where things are.
I have not talked with Frank, but I know Graham talked with Ray, I believe last night. Graham called me and I know South Carolina is testing today and waiting for results. And I think, we'll know more after those results. I know they have a positive or two, and so they're trying to see how much more is it spread. I don't know much beyond that. I'm sure we'll find out here later this afternoon. Most time we take tests in the morning, we get them in late afternoon. So I would assume that, and then, kind of begin to go from there. The doctors, I'm sure, will talk and have talked and will continue to talk. And a lot of it will be based on what they say as opposed to Frank and I.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
All right. All good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for coming. Yes, sir.